Welcome to Big Blend Radio's Wine Time with Peggy show, featuring Peggy Fiandaca, who, along with her winemaker husband Kurt Lawrence Dunham, owns and operates LDV Winery in Arizona. Welcome, everyone. It is spring. You know what? April is brunch season. April is get out with your moms and your friends, have wine outside season. April is just to have wine. But anyway, that's what I'm going to say. But of course, it is the first Wednesday of the month, so it is time for our Wine Time with Peggy show, featuring Peggy Fiandaca, who, along with her husband, Kurt, owns and runs LDV Winery in Arizona. The winery itself is in the southeast section of Arizona, even a little further south of Wilcox, Arizona. And the tasting room is in Scottsdale. And Peggy wants to talk about the wine trends happening not just nationally, but in Arizona this year, 2025. And she's got some amazing guests joining us here. And I love this because Peggy always seems to round up great women. Isn't that true, Peggy?
Always. I am a big supporter of dynamic, wonderful women, and I surround myself by them. So, yes, I got some great guests today.
Yes, you do. I want to bring them on. And we've got Susie Tim. She is the president and CEO of Knife and Fork Media Group. Don't mess with her. Knife and Fork, just saying. But go to knifeandforkmedia.com. Welcome, Susie. How are you?
I'm awesome. Thank you so much for having me. Excited to talk about the trends.
Yeah, I love this. So you represent a lot of different businesses in the food and also the wine industry and other industries, and but mostly in the Phoenix area. Is that right? Or is it all of Arizona?
Um, all of Arizona, all of the US, and I've done
Okay.
different projects in different countries. I have a couple clients in Canada right now, and we do Australia and mostly English speaking nations, but
Okay.
it's been awesome. Love it.
How long has the company been going?
It'll year 15 this year. So
Oh, well, there we go. Making some history, right? I think
exactly.
that's
Thank you.
awesome. Year 15. Well, congratulations. And Peggy, you guys, what's your year this year again?
Well, April, we celebrate 17 years since we started LDV Winery and we got our first license or our only federal license to allow us to make wine and produce grapes and so on. So, yes, 17 years
Ooh,
already.
nice.
Time
Nice.
flies when you're having wine.
I agree. I agree. I want to bring our next guest on. Also, we've got Shannon Metcalf, Percy Bali joining us. She is the editor and publisher of Edible Phoenix. And if you're like me, you love edible magazines, you can go to ediblephoenix.com. And they also really seem to have a big community that is all part of what they're doing. I love going, it's on the website today, love seeing that you're focusing on food and drink, but then you're also looking at what the industry as a whole is moving towards, the trends that we're going to talk about. So, welcome, Shannon. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
So, I love that you're still printing, right? So, this is so cool.
Print's huge actually, and it's growing.
Hmm.
Print is coming back.
Yep.
And so it is exciting and it's a great time to be in publishing and yeah, it's an honor that the previous publisher, chose me to kind of carry on the legacy that of 17 years and
Oh, wow. Here we go. No, but it's exciting, I think, because we've gone through so many changes. And as you know, Susie, too, the changes in media has been like, we started pre-Google in 97 and print and then digital podcast, all of that. And all I know is thank God for, people like Peggy and Kurt who keep us balanced with wine. I'm just saying.
Yes.
There is none of this industry without that. But speaking about, talking about women making history is another podcast channel we have, and we're going to make sure this episode goes on there too today, because you know, I've got to talk about this, Shannon, because you have got a WSET diploma, and I believe you're the first and only woman in Arizona to do so. Is that right?
that's what we believe, at least through achieving it through the Napa Valley Wine Academy. There are some other APPs or proctors, if you will, for the program. But from what we can tell through WSET and through Napa Valley Wine Academy, I am the first woman in Arizona to have the diploma, and so it's pretty exciting.
Can you
So
tell
exciting.
everybody what that entails? Because that's what, before we got recording, I'm like, she did a lot of work that none of us want to have to do all that, cross the T's, dot those I's. But can you tell everybody what that is, that diploma?
So it's a comprehensive program, basically that starts in the production in the vineyards and in the winery, all the way through the business decisions that happen to take it to the shelf, and and understanding that entire process that really determines the style, quality, and price of the final wine. And so there's a ton of theory that goes into that, as well as all of the kind of international the major international winemaking areas. And then there's also a whole slew of practical tastings that you have to go through. And so it is about as it's written, it's written to be about a 3-year program. It took me about 4.
Wow.
But we finally got it finished.
So 4 years of tasting. So maybe it's not that bad.
I was like, yeah, that's 4 years of like proactively drinking wine. I think that's
With an
excellent. And you got a
excuse.
degree out of it. I just do
And
that
an
for free.
that's an excuse. I always say, like, I have wine for an excuse of what happens with my mouth at times. But
Yeah.
so now I'm thinking, wait, I might want to do this side of it. But this is important for Arizona, because I think the more, and for women in wine in Arizona, because Arizona, you were talking about wine trends, and Peggy, you've got a great blog up on your site on ldvwinery.com. People get the newsletter every month. They've got so much going on at the tasting room right now. The season is on, y'all. And I am in the Southeast, so I can say y'all. But Peggy, when we think about Arizona, climbing up those ladders of becoming a wine destination, that's one of those trends, right? And we need people like Shannon to be out there going, okay, I got the certification, I can give you the purple stamp.
Yeah.
She's tasted so much.
Yes, exactly. I think Arizona is really starting to put itself on the map as a destination for wine and wine tasting. We have really high quality winemakers now in the state, producing award-winning wines that are, and not just here and locally, but nationally recognized. And of course, who doesn't want to come to Arizona for a vacation and enjoy wine regions? They're in beautiful parts of the state, right? And yeah, so you're not only seeing Arizona, but you're seeing another trend of emerging wine regions throughout the country, so that people have options other than just going to Napa Valley or Sonoma. They can go to wonderful wine regions throughout the US now.
Well, I know that travel for this year is going to be very domestic heavy. And we're going to have a little shift happening this year in tourism. And I think this is something really cool. Like the American road trip after COVID had a rebirth, and I think this year is going to be one of those that it gets even bigger, and wineries should be part of the must-do attractions. I'm just saying. And going to these wine regions, and it may be that it's not that far from home. I see that also happening in some of the trends in tourism. So I kind of see them holding hands, Peggy.
I agree, full-heartedly. I mean, you can spend a weekend, you can spend a week doing wine tasting in Arizona, and so that's fun. Yeah.
I wanted to go to you, Susie, on this for Arizona as a destination for wine and food. Does the wine help the food side of things?
It does. I think that, I work with Experience Scottsdale a lot and the Arizona Office of Tourism and Visit Phoenix. So they bring journalists from all over the world, and they're lately, and even I would say, Peggy, for the last 10 years, but it's gotten way better, way more complimentary, and to a much wider audience in the last couple years, even since COVID, because I think, Lisa, to your point, it is that rebirth of American travel. And I think people are getting exposed, and, they might read an article in Travel and Leisure about Scottsdale and say, we've never been there, and, we're looking for somewhere different to go this year. And, oh, hey, look, they have a wine trail in Scottsdale, Arizona. They have wine in Arizona.
They do?
I mean,
They have a
I
wine
think
trail there? They do?
we do.
I
Absolutely.
need to come back.
Yes.
Yes, you do. So
Okay.
yes, it helps complement the already amazing chefs we have. And of course, a lot of our chefs here have been very accepting of Arizona wine and really open-minded to doing pairing dinners, adding it to their lists, etc. So, and that just, continues to increase over the last 5 years or so.
Very
Susie,
cool. And
don't you think that Arizona has really become a food destination?
It
People
has. I mean,
travel.
when I first sort of entered this industry 16 years ago, holy cow, having been a banker and not been on this side of any business, not on anything to do with food, but my entire goal initially was to try to put Phoenix on the map as a food destination, and we're certainly closer. Um, it's we do get that praise on a national level that's consistent. We're getting consistent James Beard nominations and more James Beard winners. I mean, we had quite a desert of years there with no one. We maybe got some nominations, but we didn't have any winners. Now we start to have consistent winners. That helps a lot too. And then potentially having a Michelin star chef come here, which is supposed to be happening this year as well, I think will help too. So I think the sky is truly the limit in the Phoenix food scene.
well, I just want to touch on like even Tucson, hometown, but it's near Peggy's winery itself, is important because Tucson has the UNESCO gastronomy, capital of the world. It was the very first one through UNESCO, and I think that touches base on Phoenix just being, up the road. And then you've got the wineries in the southeast region, Sonoyta, Elgin, Wilcox, all of that. So there's this pathway of deliciousness. Can we just say there is. So Shannon, you're doing edible in Phoenix. So tell everybody about that, what you're seeing in the city as well as a destination, not just for the locals. Obviously, the locals are always the first to eat, drink, and be merry in their backyard. But beyond that, are you seeing people come in and read the magazine from an outside, like beyond Phoenix area?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, just yesterday, I had a bachelor party that's coming in from Canada reach out to me because they're familiar with Edible Communities magazines, and they consider Edible Communities as one of the local experts of their regions or of their communities. And so,
Okay, cool.
we're trusted as a resource of where to go, what to enjoy, how to impact smaller businesses, local owned businesses. And the one thing that I would say that, as part of that, and I was really encouraged when it's this bachelor party that's coming into town, is that, and I asked about the group, they're all 30 and younger, and they care about small business. They care about locally owned produce or food and making a difference with the local economy instead of just going to the larger chains. And I am seeing that as a bigger trend. So for us, 18 to 34-year-olds are really making a difference in the magazines. They've almost as a group, someone that picks up our magazine, that age group has doubled over the last 2 years. And so that's really promising, because to me that makes all of the businesses from printing to restaurants to wineries, and we can talk about that too, is who's drinking and who's not, and then how we get them to drink a little bit more.
Right.
I think some people need it.
Right. but they are they do have quite a bit of influence right now, and it's exciting, and there's growth opportunities there.
Well, I think also it's about people are health conscious and environmentally conscious. And Peggy, you covered that in your wine trends report for the year, that that's what you're seeing. And your winery, LDV Winery, is like perfectly, y'all did it from the beginning. You were ready.
Right. I think there is that trend that younger demographics are really looking for brands that are concerned about the environment, concerned about how either the food is grown or how their wine is being made. So I see that shift definitely. We grow our grapes from day one sustainably, and all of our wines have no additives, are zero residual sugar, are gluten-free, are vegan. And we did that from 17 years ago when we started. We wanted to have that kind of high quality ethic. But now today, people are concerned about that. They're asking about that. They're concerned about their health and wellness, and um, so reduced sugar in your wines and a lack of additives are very important. So yeah, I'm happy that we're not having to change our brand to fit the demographics. We really have a foundation in that approach. It's just now getting the word out so people understand, what do you mean that wine is not vegan? Or what do you mean that it's not gluten-free? So things like that. So we spend a lot of time educating people about it.
Yeah, because your wines are gluten-free and vegan and sustainably, crafted, with the way you work your
Correct.
land.
Correct. Absolutely.
And organic wine is different than organic grapes.
Right. I mean, we
You
are
know?
not organic. I guess we could be possibly, but I could not be vegan if I was organic, believe
Oh,
it or not.
wow.
So
Yeah.
I don't even use manure in our field. So if I did to augment my soils, I could not say my wines were vegan because of
Wow.
that. So we chose vegan instead of organic.
I was going to ask Shannon, are you seeing that in some of the restaurants, and both of you, Susie, with the food side of things, are vegan, gluten-free still on the rise too, on that same thing as the wine? And Shannon, have you seen that with your side of it?
Not as not labeled as such. What I think we see more of in the restaurants, and Susie can also speak to this, is the term natural wine. There's definitely a push over the last few years of natural wines, which are lower in sulfites, lower in additives, lower, less intervention, less fining or filtration, sometimes, which means that they might have a little bit of,
Bitsies.
yeah,
Sediment.
We call them
sediment.
bitsies.
bitsies,
I
sediment,
call it bitsies.
at the bottom of your glass, or maybe small crystals. There's definitely been some of that. However, I also see on wine lists, I mean, as much as I might see orange wine and natural wine, conventionally made wines are still very prominent. And because natural wines have a very specific palate, I'll say that. And not everybody loves that palate. So whereas, maybe that 18 to 34, or I should say 21 to 35, might enjoy or be more interested in that lower alcohol, more natural expression of wines. My generation, I'm Gen X, proud and true. We are still very much spending our dollars on, conventionally made wines in some of the classic regions.
What do you mean by orange wine?
Orange wine they are wines that are made as a white wine. So even red grapes are white juice. And it just means that the skins have been left in the process. So
Okay.
you get a little bit more tint.
Okay.
And sometimes a
Very good.
little tannin, sometimes a little texture. Again, not really minimally processed, and minimal intervention, no fining or filtration. And so it's a very historic way of making wine, actually.
I just asked because we lived in South Africa, they had orange wine. And it was like a actual orange made out of oranges. So I was like,
Oh.
well,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, no.
And so I was like, no way, are they coming here now? I mean, how did Florida do with their citrus this year in California? Like, what's going on?
No.
So I was like, no way, is that happening here? It was okay. The wine was okay, but just saying. But South Africa makes beautiful wines. But yeah, so Susie, on your side, what about the food part of it? Are you seeing, the natural side, the vegan side, the gluten-free?
Well, so much so that I wouldn't even call it a rising trend. It's just part
So
of
it's
the
been there
norm.
now.
I think it's been fully integrated now. And, when you have fast food restaurants that cater to gluten-free, not necessarily vegan yet, but seeing a lot more gluten-free options at a lot of different types of restaurants, I think was the when I started realizing, okay, this is not a trend, it's just mainstream. And then vegan, I wouldn't call like being a vegan mainstream. It's a very small percentage of people, but the idea that you should have vegan options is definitely also mainstream. Um, what I think is interesting and kind of goes into that food trend world is I've been seeing a lot more things Asian related, which can also be sometimes, depending, vegan, gluten-free, etc. So there's been a lot more fast casual Asian concepts. I just saw that Phoenix is getting um like a Japanese trying to remember what it was called, something express, not panda, but like a Japanese express version that made like teriyaki. Samurai Sam's. Wow, that was reaching back. Okay.
Hey,
Samurai
I
Sam's
thought you
are
were going to
still.
have the sushi train that goes around like they do in
Oh, that
Japan.
would be
Anyway.
amazing.
Yeah.
Samurai Sam's there's a few locations left in Phoenix, but this new concept out of California sounds like a gourmet version of the teriyaki slop bowl situation. So sounds kind of interesting. We don't have anything like that in Phoenix. And I think when places like that can get the funding needed to come into a new market, with a not huge Asian population, I mean, we have a decent sized one, but obviously our major minority, so to speak, is Hispanic in Arizona. So we obviously have a huge amount of fast, quick, Berto,
Deliciousness.
Filiberto, blah, 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 et cetera type of
Bring
food.
it.
So very interesting to watch other ethnicities become more mainstream here. And I think that speaks to where we're heading. And I think that's good. Very good.
Yeah.
I like that. I mean, the more cultures we have in a town or a city, the better the food gets. That's how I look at it. And it
Absolutely.
tells these stories. It's not only the food, but there's the stories behind the food, behind the drinks that I don't know, get people to unite a little bit better. I think it's important. Goes with the Blue Zone you were talking about, Peggy. Getting
Correct.
together and share Sundays, that whole concept you're
Yeah.
behind, and getting
Absolutely.
together and sharing. So, Peggy, how's your wine going to do with Asian food? We haven't done that yet. We're going to have to do that as an episode, I think.
Oh, absolutely. I love Asian cooking. I do all kinds of Asian cooking, and our wines are perfect to go with that. One comment I wanted to make, what Shannon was talking about, natural wines. That is a term, it's more of a marketing term. It is not regulated in any way. There is no defined term as to what is makes up natural wines. So it's all over the place, but in general, as Shannon said, it's lower additives, lower. I mean, we do have sulfites in our wines, but we do not sell to grocery stores or any place where it's going to be sitting on a shelf for any length of time. So we are below the national average in terms of the amount of sulfites in our wines, but it's a living product. And I want to make sure that when you buy our wine, wherever you buy your wine, at a restaurant or pick it up and take it home and store it yourself, that it's going to be stable when you open that bottle of wine and still be well. But we do not filter or we do not fine our wines. And that's one of the reasons why we're able to say we're vegan. Some of our wines we do filter, but the majority of our wines we do not.
I wanted to say too, with a lot of these trends and the younger generation stepping into wine and all of that kind of focus, because it looks like everyone wants to really have an authentic experience. Whatever they do, they want it to be something as an experience. So are you seeing that happen in the tasting room, Peggy, as a trend too, that you do all these different events that are educational, but it's not like going to school because you've got wine and you got, charcuterie boards going on. And yeah, I know. So you got the good stuff going on. But are you seeing that helps people have that experience that they're looking for, but also learn more and get a little bit more understanding about the value of wine? Because the value of wine, well, sky's the limit.
Right.
priceless.
I think it's and the other gals can talk about it, but it's in the hospitality industry. People are choosing to vacation or go to a location or go to even a restaurant, but certainly to our tasting room for an experience. And in our tasting room, we'll get people that have never done wine tasting before to San Francisco or Napa Valley wine collectors. So we have the entire gamut of people that step into our tasting room in Scottsdale. And so our wine concierge, and I purposely define them as wine concierge, they're there to curate an experience around wine with our customers. And so they are able to take that customer in an in-depth discussion about wine and wine regions beyond just ours, or they just kind of talk about our wines or our pairings. So they're very highly educated and are there to create that experience for our customers, and as well as all of our events from Linez Divin or aromatherapy for wine lovers to our wine and cheese pairing. Like this month, we're doing French cheeses paired with wines, and next month, California cheeses. So we do all kinds of events to create that experience so people have fun. And I've always thought if people have fun doing tasting wine or doing it, they're going to remember us and they're going to buy more wine.
That's good, because there's also that population that are like steering away from alcohol. And listen, if they even try the prohibition thing, I will revolt and I will be loud.
Good,
They're
good.
going to hear it very loudly. I mean, yes, cut back a little bit and maybe, rather
Moderation is important.
There it
Yeah.
is key.
Exactly.
It's like rather have the experience at the tasting room or a really nice meal with your wine, or go on a trip and incorporate that, then don't. Dude, it's so good for you. I'm just saying. And this whole thing, I mean, even Dr. Jackie Ubani, who's on our show every second Wednesday, she's a cardiologist, and she comes on and reminds us about, for women, 5 ounces of wine a day is fine. And then this, here comes this big warning about cancer and wine and everything. And she said, listen, it's, stress month is here, like awareness month is here in April. And she goes, stick to your glass of wine. It should be okay. You can have your wine. And if you overdo it, just don't do it tomorrow. But
I like her.
Yeah, no, we love her. Because every time she gives us a warning, but then she lets us still have it. And I think that moderation part is still there. And if you stress yourself out about it, stress is actually the worst thing on the planet. So just saying on that level. But Shannon, what are you seeing in regards to in Phoenix and the feedback in your magazines? Obviously, with this community that everybody trusts, are you seeing more about going to these kinds of events as being something where your readers are being able to really expand their knowledge, but have that kind of experience? Are you seeing like that becoming a bigger thing across the board in the area?
Oh, without question. And the value is in the experience. And one of the things that I think is really great about, Arizona and the Phoenix area and is the fact that some of the winemaking regions here in North America have really priced themselves out of the market. And what I mean by that is that, and I mean, I love Napa and I love Sonoma and I've been going there for years, but to go have an experience and a tasting and some education and maybe some light bites, it is so expensive that people, when we offer them, or let's say that Edible Phoenix does a collaboration with a local winery or a tasting room, and there is light bites, a tasting, and some education, and we offer it for, a good value. I mean, we are getting an enormous response, and people are so grateful because they are looking for that experience where they come out of it knowing more and being able to vote with their dollar, and they're choosing differently long term with that. And so there's a lot of value in doing the experience and offering it for less than kind of what's been going on over in California.
Oh, yeah, well, and gas is expensive there. Not knocking my friends in California. We love
No.
California.
Yeah, no, I
But
mean, we love our California neighbors and, you know, I support a lot of businesses over there, but it's just, it's a different price point at this, you know.
yeah,
Totally.
well, this is something that Arizona can really stand up on, and kind of go, hey, y'all, I'm here. Maybe not y'all. I don't know. I've got the y'alls ever since we've been in the South a little bit here. But Susie, what are you seeing in regards to the different, companies that you represent in the food and wine industry? Are they doing more events too? And kind of I see it as even, I'm sure you're seeing this, Shannon and Susie too, that interactive, even as a media, interactivity is so crucial.
Everything needs some level of interaction, I think, to keep and engage with at least anybody under 40, I would say. Some of us over 40 maybe have a slightly longer attention span, but I do think we like, we like the experiences too. I know when I first started in the food industry in Arizona, our company was an events company. It was really the first of its kind where we put on culinary experiences for
Mm,
the general public in Phoenix, in the metro. And so we did like 65 events in 18 months or something and sold every single one out. Like it was
wow.
insane. I don't even honestly know how I'm even alive, but that was
Yeah.
15 years ago. So
Peggy's wine. It,
Yeah.
it,
yes.
it, it also, you know what? It preserves us too. Okay.
Yeah. So, events has always for me been a big thing. It's hard for me to get press for clients unless they're doing something. It's almost impossible to be honest, because we're such a saturated market. We have so many restaurants. We have so many opportunities to do cool things, right? And so media isn't cover you just because your door is open 7 days a week. And I wish that everyone understood that. But they don't. And so we have to educate our clients on, you'll get attention if you're doing something. Doesn't always have to be like crazy, but we have to be doing something. And so
Mm.
for me, not only to get media attention, but to get the people to actually want to come. I mean, it's one thing to get on TV, but if you're promoting something boring, you're not going to sell it. So we want to be promoting things that will get the interest and engagement from potential wine drinkers or people who love to eat, etc. So
And what about also partnering with nonprofits? And that's something you do, Peggy, right? Doesn't that help as well when you do it with the DOMs? Uh-oh, you say it. I'm gonna mess it up. Scoffier? Uh-oh.
oh no,
Yeah,
you did
yeah,
it.
you did good.
Okay,
Yes,
I'm learning.
Susie is the president of the Phoenix chapter,
Oh,
and I'm the
right
vice
on, right on.
president. Yeah, and Shannon's on the board also. So
Oh, well,
yeah,
there we go. Okay, so it's a
yeah,
good thing to bring up. So those kinds of partnerships, not only are you networking in the community and as women in this organization, but you're also giving back, right? And doesn't that help in the press world, Susie?
Yes, it's huge. And I've had clients say to me like, well, I don't really want to toot our own horn. And I do have to remind people that nobody else is going to toot your horn for you. So if you don't, then no one will know. And it is important for your potential customers to know you actually care. It does matter. People don't look at it as bragging. They look at it as, okay, great. This company stands for something that I stand for, because activism in whatever manner you want to call it, whether it's helping homeless people or
Mm,
marching, whatever you want to do, it is more acceptable as companies to publicly associate
mm.
with things. Now, I, as a publicist, do not want my clients associating with anything political, but when it comes to giving back, that's important because we know that younger generations care tremendously about whether you have a good product, but you also do good in the world. And so, yeah, I think it works.
Yeah, I would support someone doing something good before someone who's just there for profit.
Right.
yeah.
Period. Yeah.
As a small whiner, I get probably 10 requests a day to
Wow.
donate. For some reason, they think we have unlimited resources and
Mhm.
we can give away our product so much. So, but we do have a very strong giving policy at LDV Winery, and we only donate to causes associated with our wine club members. So if any of our wine club members are a part of an organization that's non-political, we support it either financially or through our wine donations and so on. But we've had to prioritize because we just get
Yeah, you
inundated.
can't give the farm. Yeah, literally. Don't give
On
that
days I
winery
wish
away.
I could.
No, no, I understand. Well, that happens with magazines, right, Shannon? Everybody think it's like, yeah, no, it's a whole other world. But prioritizing, but then just being part of an organization where it's your time, your advisory, that capacity really helps too. Putting on events, volunteering, I think that's a really big part of it. And I do believe, consumers, wine drinkers, wine lovers, that's an important thing too. So we've talked about that. So now what is also happening in regards to this labeling thing? What's this labeling stuff going on? Do we have to say how many grapes went in that bottle and how much sugar and how much this and that? What's going on with that?
Yeah, it's really been being debated on how much information that we put on our labels, or required by law to put on our labels. Right now, we're only required to put the alcohol content, and we're required to put on the back of the label that about not drinking if you're pregnant, and it can have an impact. And we have to put on the label that it contains sulfites. But basically, that's it. And so the debate right now, should we be putting the content on the label and how much of that? And should we be putting the percentage of sugar and all of the other additives that might be, or not, sugar's not an additive, but that they're on there. So it's a big debate. It's a cost issue, obviously, for small wineries like us to have our bottles of wine analyzed and then be able to put that on our labels. But for a winery like us and what we're producing a really pure bottle of wine, I'd like to be able to. I mean, we do say it on our wines. I'd like to have others tell their story about how much is added to their wines. So I don't know. Personally, I'm not certain where I stand on that. I think I lean against it, but yeah, it's a big debate in the industry right now.
Interesting. Are either of you saying anything about labeling more, or I know that Susie's like, hey, just shush on it. Shush on the label. You don't have to put it all there. It's like those commercials, like, for, medicine. Like, at the end of it, like, don't do this, don't take this. And if you do this, well, what you took it for may kill you, all of that kind of thing. But wine won't kill you. No,
Well, and the part of the label is this threat to put on there more of a cautionary label on wine, which is based on not based on true facts, So that's a big concern, is if they want to increase the cautionary label more like cigarettes, that it's cancer causing. And the faulty studies and research that are out there don't prove that out as a direct link. So that is very much concerned. So you have the nutritional value that they want to put on labels, and then they have the cautionary of cancer link on labels.
The other thing too that I know in the trends, we're kind of going on the negative now, but it's something that I think wine lovers should know so they understand the value behind each bottle of wine, is that labor and actually getting things that you need to make your wine is short. And this is something that, I mean, obviously we know from COVID on, and things aren't necessarily getting easier, right, Peggy, as a winemaker?
And I think everyone can talk to this from a hospitality industry. I mean, labor shortages are real. And when you think about the agriculture industry, which, we're growers as well as manufacturers of wine, it is a real issue across the country, across the world, actually. But in this country. It's serious. And we take care of a crew, and we've had for almost 10 years, and we take good care, financial care of those folks, so that when we need them, they drop everything and drop their other clients and come to work for us, because we have taken care of them for so long. But it's serious, as same as the supply chain is still problematic.
Yes.
In this country, we no longer have a glass industry. So all glass is imported. So every bottle is imported primarily, we get our glass from Mexico. And with the threat of tariffs, I guess that might have hit today, I don't know. But
did.
yeah, so the tariff issue is real, and that's going to increase
Damn,
the
I just
cost.
bought avocados, thank God.
It's going to increase our bottle costs tremendously. And just, we get our barrels or wood from France for our French oak, for our Grenache. And so that'll increase the cost of that. That was already, a French oak barrel is over $1,000 a barrel. And that's already going to increase that cost. And then, just the trucking of supplies has gone, crazy in terms of the cost of shipping. So that is serious impact to all wineries, but particularly a small winery like us. I mean, during COVID or around COVID, we had to buy a whole truckload of glass, not just that lasted us a year, but the cost associated with getting all that glass all at one time was a lot, astronomical. But
I think it's so important that we know this, so that we can have that, we understand what's happening with costs. I mean, how many people for so long thought the egg shortage was political? And the egg prices going up, and it's like, no, why don't we just look at what's really going on and understanding, right now, Nancy and I are in Asheville, North Carolina, and you want to talk, you hear everyone's hammering it's post Hurricane Helene, but these disasters affect the country, not just, the Southeast, and, the fires, that, LA happened, that affects Arizona. All of this has an effect, and everything starts going up right now. People can't get everything fixed as they need to, and we won't go into all the other stuff that happens with disasters. But when you talk about labor shortages and then actually the things we need, it's something for us to all think about the value of things. So when you buy wine, getting a decent bottle of wine and understanding that your money is really supporting a small business, which is and should be continued to be the backbone of this country. The backbone of each community should be its businesses. Shannon, with what you do at Edible Phoenix, are you feeling that from your clientele as well, and the people that you cover and the restaurants, and also Susie, chime in on this, that like maybe, they have to, like restaurants have to explain, sorry, the eggs are going up.
Right.
You know what I mean? You can't just, close your eyes and grin and bear it and not communicate with your clientele, right? So are you seeing any of that kind of thing happen?
So, just a couple of things, I'm not seeing it as much. I know it's taking place. I'm aware of it in the restaurants, but where I'm really hearing about it is with the farmers themselves or with the grape growers themselves. And, the biggest, I think one of the biggest shifts that we're seeing, especially for the smaller wineries, and almost all of our Arizona wineries are very small, is that if there's any kind of family interaction, the kids are seeing how hard their parents are working, and they are sometimes for very little profit, sometimes for very little return, and they're deciding that they don't want to be part of that winery anymore, or they don't want to be part of the process anymore. And so it's changing kind of the process of of either grape growing or any kind of ag, because ag is hard and farming is hard. And so that's where I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it in the stories from the farmers, from the grape growers, from the people who are actually doing the work and growing the crop, whatever that crop might be, is that, you know, you've got all this, I mean, I hate to say this, but all these dynamics kind of working against them, everything from climate to pricing hikes that are changing kind of how our farmers, and I'm talking about grape growers and that farming community as well, how they're having to do business, and then the younger generation going, peace out, I'm gonna go to the big city and go into marketing, I'm gonna go into business or finance, and they're changing their path completely and choosing out of the ag community. So that's how I'm seeing it. It's
Oh,
a
wow.
it's a totally different storyline.
And Susie, on your side?
Yeah, I mean, I've had quite a few clients on TV in the last few weeks speaking on the price of everything, potential tariffs on imports, like you mentioned, avocados, but tomatoes, avocados, of course, the bird flu causing so many issues with egg prices. But I think, and so I've had a lot of clients who've been asked to speak to this, and yeah, I mean, they're being candid with customers and saying, look, we may have to raise prices slightly as a heads up because eggs used to be X and now they're Y. And people do understand that. I don't think I have one client that has like 11 burrito shops around Phoenix and they mostly sell breakfast burritos. And so they go through, I don't even remember what he told me, maybe 18,000, maybe more eggs a month. And so you can't buy that quantity of eggs with the price doubling and have it not directly impact your prices. You have to raise your prices or else you're going to go out of
Gone,
business,
yeah.
and that's just silly. So people do understand. I think he's trying to do it incrementally, and then he has said that he will take them back down if he can. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's a communication and letting
mhm,
people know. That's the importance of media, right? It's to let people
exactly.
let that out there. So that's a negative, but that's the way the world is. And I used to live in England, and that was expensive. Can I just tell you? So we're still not as bad as it could be, right? But Peggy, I know that you're focusing on a wine of the month and a word of the month, and today you combined it into one. Yet, and it's my favorite word, Syrah, which is my favorite wine. But then, so I want to say there's two ways of spelling Syrah. So Syrah, Syrah to you.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
Syrah.
yes, Syrah, and I chose Syrah as the word of the month because people are confused about it. A lot of times they get it confused with Petite Syrah, which is spelled differently. The Petite Syrah, Sirah, versus Syrah, Syrah. And you see it also Shiraz, which Shiraz and Syrah are the exact same grape. But Petite Syrah, as you know, we're specialized in Petite Syrah. If you look at the genetics and go way back into the genetics, there is some relationship to Syrah, but they're very different. They grow different, they look different, and they taste different. But Syrah is, it's a northern Rhone Valley. People describe it as meaty. You really get to chew a little bit a Syrah, but it showcases that darker fruit flavors, kind of brambly berries, a blueberry, plum potentially, but you can also get that cracked peppercorn, leather, bacon, and a lot of times you'll
She
get
said
this hint.
bacon.
Yes, exactly. I say bacon. And that's that meatiness that a lot of people pick up in a Syrah. But it also has hints of violet, which will, if you pick that up on a wine and you don't really, and you're doing a blind wine tasting, you don't know. what the varietal is, and you pick that up, go to Syrah. That's probably what it is. And we just released a Syrah. That's why
Oh, well, good timing.
yeah,
Well done.
exactly. Just this
Susie's
past
giving you thumbs up there, right?
yeah, just this past weekend, we released our 2018 Syrah, which has, it's 86% estate grown Syrah grapes and only about 14% Grenache in it. When we were hoping to produce 100% Syrah, when we were testing it, it's like, this is not exactly where we want it to be. And then we threw some Grenache in it. It's like, we got it. It's finally is exactly where we at. So we aged it 54 months. And we rack that off, so we don't do fining. So we rack that off every 45 days over that 54 months. And I think what you're getting because of that is really softened tannin structure, and has this wonderful smooth mouth feel that you don't always get in the Syrah, but this one is beautiful. Pair this with some smoked cheeses, filet mignon or a New York strip steak, just awesome. And
It's almost dinner here right now, so you know
Exactly.
I
this is
mean,
cruel.
I haven't even
know.
eaten lunch, so I'm like, what are you trying to do to me, Peggy?
I know it's like smoked cheeses and bacon and and then the fact that it's Syrah too. Yeah,
right,
yeah. Every time she's on the show, every show, she gets us hungry, and she's got so many recipes too.
yeah.
Oh,
Love it.
So
wonderful.
I would pair this. I don't know if I ever did this recipe yet, but I have a recipe for Southwestern pesto shrimp.
Mm.
And
Oh,
usually people would go towards a white wine with shrimp, but this pairs beautifully with the Syrah. So if I hadn't, I'll send you the recipe, Lisa. We can post it.
okay.
I can't recall if we've done that recipe before, but yeah.
Cool. We'll check that out. I wanted to ask each of you in closing. Obviously, when you go to Scottsdale, you got to go see Peggy at the wine tasting, room there, and go to an event and have some fun there. I wanted to ask each of you in closing. You've got, how people just show up on your doorstep suddenly, and then you got to go out to eat somewhere. So, where would you take a friend that a long lost friend just shows up out of the blue and says, I'm here, let's go have a bite to eat. And of course, we want wine, right? Or a sip, wherever. So let's give a big shout out to Scottsdale and Phoenix area for people traveling there. So let's start with you, Susie. Where would you take someone?
I've been asked this question so many times, and it comes up like, what's your favorite restaurant? Which I kind of take as the same a little bit because I
Yeah.
want obviously to take a guest somewhere they would love. But I would say my answer's still the same for like 15 years. Any guesses from Shannon or Peggy?
I have no idea.
Oh,
I have no.
F&B is where I
I
would.
knew you were going to say that, and that was going to be mine.
Damn it. Well, take
Oh
it too.
wow. What's
That's a
going
double
on there?
endorsement.
What's
Yeah.
going on there? What's happening?
another fantastic woman leading the charge. She's a chef, Badman, who's a wonderful woman chef. We call her the vegetable whisperer. She's incredible.
She can get people who don't eat vegetables to eat vegetables?
Yes.
Yeah.
All sorts of vegetables, all sorts of things you may never have tried before. She's the first time I've ever tried like a ramp, I think was there. And maybe even leeks, how they do their leeks very
Oh,
famously. But
incredible.
she won a James Beard Award, I think in either 2022 or 2023. And
Mhm.
she is just incredible. She's amazing, wood-fired kitchen.
Oh,
And her business partner always jokes that you can tell the ethnicity of whatever man she's dating based on whatever food ends up on the menu. So if it's
oh, that's
Indian,
funny.
there you
That's
go.
that's
Cambodian, there
funny.
you go. And I think she would probably say that too. But yes, she's very inventive, comes up with riffs on things you would never in a million years put together yourself. And it's just a very special experience. It's not cheap, certainly not the most expensive restaurant in this town. It's not the fanciest, but it's really, really high quality, so you're going to pay for that. Plus, they have a really beautiful Arizona wine menu. which is really nice. And they were really the pioneers of doing that in Phoenix. So, yeah, so for those reasons, that's still my pick after all these years.
So Shannon, are you still going with F&B? Is that your thing?
I am. So I would say if I'm introducing someone to, a special restaurant here in Phoenix, that is very mindful about their sourcing, I would say, F&B, but then, I'm also a huge fan of Chris Bianco and all of his projects. I think he's doing some really beautiful things, and he's mindful about everything from his flour, that he uses in his bread and pasta. But also his wine list and all of his vegetables. He's very mindful. And then Valentine is also doing a really beautiful job. And like we started the conversation, 45 minutes ago, Phoenix and Scottsdale are really being put on the map in the culinary scene, and it's really exciting. So you really can't go wrong.
Peggy, do you have a favorite spot there?
Those are all wonderful places, of course, and F&B is right by the tasting room. So come have a drink before dinner or after dinner.
Placed.
And, yep. But I love Lons at Hermosa Inn,
Cool.
and
I almost said that too.
yeah, and they have an incredible patio. It's historical. It has a great history of the Hermosa Inn. They always, I have just called the chef and said, okay, we're at your mercy. We're coming for an evening. We'll take whatever you want to cook for us. And I know we had to stop him because he kept bringing different courses out to us. And
I remember when you did that. That was crazy.
That was crazy fun. It was, I think it was for my birthday. So it's just a really special place. And I think it showcases Arizona's history in a lot of ways, but incredible food.
That's important. That's important about, Arizona. When people think a taste of Arizona, multiple things come to my mind. Not, I think a lot of us immediately go to Mexican food, right? Which absolutely, but there's these other things that, what are we growing? Nepalese and things like that. There's this whole other food scene, and it's about who is there now. Like you were saying earlier, Susie, that there's this cultural blend happening, and that's where this, amazing food with also maintaining the history of, your state, the beautiful Grand Canyon state. Yep.
Yes.
I'm feeling a little homesick today now. Thank you all.
Yeah.
You've made me hungry, thirsty for some Syrah. And thank you all for joining us here hey, it's brunch month, everybody, too. So I'm just saying this is a good time to have brunch. And you know what wine, Peggy, for brunch are we doing this month? What would
We
you
have
say?
rosé. We just released a 2023 rosé, which is phenomenal.
Oh, I
So
can't
come
wait.
in for that. Yeah.
I will.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you all, everyone. The links are in the episode notes. Obviously, go to ldvwinery.com for Peggy and Kurt's wine. Go to keep up with Susie. Go to knifeandforkmedia.com. She won't stab you with those knives and forks. And ediblephoenix.com for Shannon's work, and also to get the magazine Edible Phoenix. And she's not going to eat you. Thank you, ladies, so much for joining us.
Thank you. Great time.
Thank you for listening to Big Blend Radio's Wine Time with Peggy show. Keep up with LDV Winery at ldvwinery.com. Keep up with Big Blend Radio at bigblendradio.com.